The first time I realized I'd moved into a war zone, it wasn't a loud argument. It was 3 orange cones and a sign that said, "No access, HOA control." I stood there in my own driveway, coffee in hand, watching a tow truck idle like it was waiting for a green light. Then a woman in a white SUV stepped out, smiled like she was doing me a favor, and said, "You're trespassing." My name's Ethan Brooks, and 2 months ago I bought a little place outside Austin, the kind of house you grab because the price makes sense and the inspection doesn't scream at you. It's not inside an HOA, not on paper, not on the deed, not in the closing docs that was part of the appeal. The only weird thing was the layout. My house sits just past a neat little neighborhood called Oak Ridge, and the easiest way to my place is a gravel lane that cuts behind their community mailboxes and curves to my garage. It wasn't a secret lane or some shady shortcut. It's the only lane, the only way in, the only way out. The first week everything was fine. People waved in that polite American way where the hand goes up but the eyes don't fully commit. Then came the second week, Saturday morning bright sunbirds doing their thing and me stepping outside to grab a package. And there they were. Cones across the gravel lane, a chain loosely draped like set dressing, and that ridiculous sign. Before I could even process it, the white SUV rolled up, slow tires crunching. A woman got out wearing a blazer that had never seen a hard day in its life. Sunglasses on hair, perfect clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "I'm Linda Parker," she said like I was supposed to recognize the name. "President of the Homeowners Association." I blinked at her, then at the cones. "Okay, and why is my driveway blocked?" Linda tilted her head, smile still glued on. "This access is under HOA control. You can't use it." I actually laughed once, just a short burst, because it sounded like a prank that forgot the punchline. "Linda, this goes to my house." She didn't laugh back. She pointed at the sign like it was scripture. "You're trespassing through Oak Ridge common property." And that's when I noticed the tow truck again, not parked randomly, but staged, aligned, ready. The driver didn't look at me, just stared forward like he'd been paid to be invisible. I took a breath, tried to keep it normal. "Show me the paperwork. Show me where it says you own it." Linda's smile tightened. The board decided. "You'll receive a notice. Compliance is expected." Right on cue, a guy in an HOA polo shirt walked up and handed me a sheet with a barcode and my address printed clean at the top like a bill. It said, "Enforcement notice" in bold and under that unauthorized use of HOA property. Subject to towing. Subject to fines. I stared at it, then at Linda. "You don't get to fine me. I'm not in your HOA." Linda's sunglasses shifted as she looked me up and down. "You're physically entering our community's controlled area. That makes you our concern." The way she said "our concern" made my skin crawl, like I was a stain on her freshly vacuumed carpet. I tried to drive around the cones anyway, just to call the bluff. The tow truck driver finally moved, not aggressively, just enough to make his point, and Linda lifted her hand palm out. "Do it," she said, calm as a yoga instructor. "We'll tow you and you'll pay storage. Or you can do the right thing and park outside the neighborhood." So I did the humiliating thing. I backed up, parked on the public street half a mile away, and carried my package home like a guy who lost a bet. Over the next few days it got worse in that slow, petty way that only organized busybodies can pull off. Every morning cones, every evening cones. Sometimes the chain was tighter like they were practicing. Then the letters started showing up, all addressed to me, all with Oak Ridge letterhead like it was a government agency. Final warning. Immediate compliance required. Safety liability concern. One of them even accused me of endangering residents because my tires kicked up dust. Dust on a gravel lane in Texas. I went door to door the first time trying to find a reasonable human. Half the neighbors acted like they didn't hear me knock. The other half whispered like we were in a library. One older guy cracked his door an inch and said, "Man, I'm sorry. Don't fight Linda." Then he closed it like he'd said too much. By the end of week 3, I was exhausted in a way that didn't feel dramatic, just draining. I'd get home from work park, far away, lug groceries, lug tools, lug everything, and step into my own house already irritated. One night, standing by my car under a streetlight, I just stared at the lane leading to my place and felt this heavy, ugly thought settle in. What if I missed something in the closing docs? What if there's some easement I didn't understand? What if this is going to turn into months of legal nonsense I can't afford? Not am I a bad person, not some soap opera thing. Just the practical fear did I screw up buying this house. The next day, Linda emailed me. Yes, she had my email somehow inviting me to a community compliance meeting. That phrase alone made my jaw clench. The meeting was in a bland clubhouse with folding chairs, fluorescent lighting, and a table up front where Linda sat like a principal about to suspend someone. 2 other board members were there too, Tom Green and Beth Collins nodding along like dashboard bobbleheads. Linda stood up and spoke into a microphone. We're here to address ongoing violations by a non-member who continues to use HOA controlled access. I raised my hand like a kid in school. I'm not a non-member using your access. That lane goes to my property. Linda didn't look at me. She looked at the room. The board has determined the lane is Oak Ridge Common Area. I said determined based on what show the recorded easement. Show anything official. That's when she leaned down and pressed a button on the little sound box. My microphone, the one they'd handed me to speak, went dead. I could still talk, sure, but now I was just some guy arguing from a folding chair while she broadcasted through speakers. Linda kept her voice perfectly calm. We will not tolerate hostile behavior, she said into the mic as if I'd thrown a chair. We have families here. I looked around the room and saw it not anger, not support, just people trying to survive their own neighborhood politics. Nobody wanted to be the next concern. I left that meeting with my ears ringing and that stupid notice paper crumpled in my pocket. And for about 12 hours I seriously considered just selling the house and eating the loss, because the idea of waking up every day to cones and threats made my stomach turn. Then the next morning I did the one thing Linda couldn't determine a way. I drove to the county records office. The woman at the counter had a name tag that said Maria Ramirez, and she had the calm patience of someone who's seen every flavor of nonsense. I told her the situation, expecting her to shrug. Instead, she frowned and said, "Did they show you an easement?" When I told her no, she nodded. Like of course they didn't. Maria pulled up the plat maps, the filed documents, the recorded property lines. She pointed at the screen, tapped it twice, then printed a page and slid it toward me. The lane was marked, clearly, and right next to it, in plain text, private access. Maria flipped to another page, stamped years ago, and traced a line with her finger. No recorded easement to Oak Ridge, HOA, she said. If they're blocking this, they're blocking your lawful access. I felt my shoulders drop, for the first time in weeks, like my body finally got permission to stop bracing. Not because everything was solved, but because now I had something real. Maria leaned closer and lowered her voice. People like that count on you not pulling records, she said. Bring this to county compliance and document everything. So I did. I filed a complaint, attached the plat map, attached photos of the cones, the chain, the tow truck, the notices. I printed Linda's email and highlighted the part where she said we control access. 2 days later I got a call. County Compliance Officer Daniel Harris wanted to meet on site. And suddenly, Oak Ridge didn't feel so confident. Officer Harris arrived in a plain county vehicle, no drama, no lights, just a guy with a clipboard and the kind of posture that says he doesn't care about your feelings. Linda showed up 5 minutes late, blazer on again, sunglasses again, acting like she was hosting. Tom and Beth stood behind her like backup dancers. Linda started immediately. Officer, this individual has been trespassing. Officer Harris held up a hand. Not rude, just final. Ma'am, do you have a recorded easement granting the Homeowners Association authority over this access? Linda's mouth opened, then closed. She pulled a folder out like a magician, shuffled papers, and said, "We have internal HOA documents." Officer Harris didn't even blink. Internal documents don't override public record. Do you have a recorded easement, yes or no? The silence was loud. You could hear the gravel under someone's shoe. Linda tried again, voice sharper now. The board voted. Officer Harris cut her off, still calm. The board can vote on landscaping, not on property rights. Then he turned to me. Mr. Brooks, is this your only access point? Yeah, I said. Only one. Officer Harris looked back at Linda. Blocking the only driveway creates a habitability issue. You will remove these obstructions today. Linda's face did this tiny twitch, the first crack in the porcelain. She glanced at Tom and Beth like they might rescue her, but they suddenly found the clouds very interesting. Linda tried to stand tall. We'll appeal. Officer Harris nodded once. You're welcome to file whatever you want, but until you present a recorded easement, you do not have authority here." He looked at the tow truck parked down the street, then back at Linda. "And if you tow his vehicle, it becomes a much bigger problem." That's when it happened. Not a scream, not a meltdown, just the moment her power evaporated in real time. Linda didn't have a microphone. She didn't have a room full of intimidated neighbors. She didn't have vague HOA language to hide behind. All she had was a folder of paper that meant nothing. The cones came down that afternoon. Not because Linda suddenly grew a conscience, but because she didn't have a choice. The next week, I got one more email from Oak Ridge this time, written in careful, nervous legal speak. It said the Homeowners Association acknowledged no recorded easement and would cease enforcement actions related to the access lane. And tucked into the neighborhood rumor mill, I heard the part Linda would hate most. The board put her under review for misconduct, and she was removed as president while they restructured compliance procedures. I never saw her out there again with that clipboard. Just a white SUV that stopped showing up. Lesson: pull the records, because bullies love paperwork until you bring the real kind.